me begin. You let me know once the recording starts. Yeah, thank you. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, based on the time zone that you're joining, and that's what we normally say when we start the community this sessions, right? So, yes, as John said, this is a 2 day series for 2 day sessions on record trigger flow. Now, behind the scene, John was telling me to take only one session, but I said no. The record trigger flow is a very important concept because, as you have seen, it gives an upper hand to the developers and makes admins life easy. Okay, and apart from that, we all know that flow is no longer an admin tool, right? So with that said, I have decided to give 2 sessions on the flow. Today we will cover up little bit part, and then tomorrow we'll cover up the little bit part, and that little bit part will make a big part of your learning. So with that said, let's begin. But first things first, don't forget to put your learnings on the social media platform, and don't forget to tag me so that obviously I don't have any swags to give you all, but to make sure that my learnings, my knowledge reach out to the maximum audience. So please share your whatever learnings that you get today on the social media platform, LinkedIn or Twitter. That will be a major give back from your end to me. So thank you so much, and let's talk about myself. So I'm an avid learner, a philanthropist by my like the thing that I do that I like to do a lot. I'm a lifetime learner and hard worker. Major of the people who have joined this session belong to this category, that is lifetime learner and hard worker. Founder of Mule Driven Event, which is built on for both Salesforce and MuleSoft community. Developer by profession, content creator by passion, professional trainer and mentor. Won't talk much about this particular part, and you can check this out about more about me on my LinkedIn handle. So this is my LinkedIn and Twitter handle. Anytime if you feel that I'm going too fast, you can keep pinging in the chat, and John will let me know, hey Aman, you're going fast, and I'll slow it down. Okay. Apart from that, I have myself given a name, a title, Nomadic Trailblazer, because I like to travel a lot, and I have almost covered 23 states, and I'm on the mission to cover 28 states, that is all the states of India. Let's see how long it will go, but that's what I love to do. Okay, so what's next? So what's the agenda for today? So agenda is very simple. We'll see what is flow and how often you use it. Then we will see why should you learn flows. After that, we will move on to the main part, what we want to cover it today, that is introduction to record trigger flow. After that, we will go ahead with use case and demo, because it's not like always I'll keep on talking, and you are just getting theoretical knowledge. That's not going to happen. You are going to practically see what I'm going to discuss. Post that, we will have a Q&A session, and then it's a wrap from our end. John, please keep me posted if any questions comes up. Whenever I ask, do you have any questions? If you find out any question, please speak out
Okay,
that
sure.
question and I'll answer it at that time.
Okay, sure. I'll update it. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, then let's go with the flow. So before we go with the flow, this is a disclaimer that I would like to show to everyone. If anyone says that coding is a necessary skill for workflow automation or basically flow automation, you know what you need to do next, right? Take that paper, and whatever is mentioned here, you can do it. Now, what is flow? So what do you understand as a flow? So flow is a very powerful automation tool when it comes to Salesforce. Yes, and it has become more powerful from the last 1 year, or not, if not last 1 year, 6 months. From last 6 months, not only admin, developer, architect, any person who wants to like increase their skills or enhance their skills when it comes to automation, they are targeting flows. Why? Because reason is very simple. Whatever you can do through coding, almost everything is possible. If not everything, almost all the things are possible through your flows as well. So if someone asks you what is flow, you can say, hey, flow is an automation tool, or in a better sense, flow is a low code automation tool which helps us to perform all the things that you can do through your LWC component, through your triggers, through your asynchronous programming, through your Apex classes. That all things my flow can do. Then comes the second reason. Was flow already there, or flow was bought recently? Many people are not aware of this. flow was already there in the ecosystem. Earlier, the flow was called as visual flow. Since it was little complex and it was not much user friendly, people were not using it. People were still focusing on workflow rule, process builder. Slowly and gradually, Salesforce understood that we don't need to have multiple automation tools, and then they came up with enhancing their own inbuilt tool, which is flows. Now, after this, we need to understand, since we understood what is flow, let's see what are the different types of flows are available. So basically, we have six types of flows available. Normally, I say five because this I put it in another category. But yes, now it's time to say six type of flows. So first is screen flow. Second one is auto launch flow. Third is record trigger flow. Fourth is platform event triggered flow. Fifth is schedule trigger flow. And the last one, which is called flow orchestration. Now, first one, which is screen flow. What is screen flow? So I think it was already discussed in the previous session, but we'll just give an overview about it. So screen flow is basically a user interaction flow, right? Where you are asking your user to, hey, you please give me your inputs, and based on the inputs, I'm going to do some automations. That's the simple example of your screen flow. Now, many people get confused between one, two, and this third one, that is auto launch flow, record trigger flow, and schedule trigger flow. The reason is quite simple and obvious, because when you go to your flow screen, when I say flow screen, I am talking about this. Let me log in and let me show you. So when you go to your quick setup, and in the quick find, when you type flow, okay, here you will find out one thing which is very, I don't know, you will find it very difficult to understand. See, I said there are basically six different types of flow. But here, when you see, if there is any screen flow, it shows here as screen flow. If there is any other type of flows, let's say record trigger flow, schedule trigger flow, or auto launch flow, they all will be under one category, which is called as auto launch flow. Now, this create a lot of confusion for the beginners or someone who is very new to the learning part of flows. So how will you able to understand which is record trigger flow, which is schedule trigger flow, and which is auto launch flow? See, now they have, if or like previous release, they have started telling Salesforce scheduler flow. Okay, I am yet not sure. I have not tried my hands into this, but for the schedule trigger flow, I have seen they have started mentioning Salesforce scheduler flow. But still, in some places, it's quite difficult to identify between schedule trigger flow, auto launch flow, and record trigger flow. But when you're working in real time, if you want to understand when shall I use record trigger flow, when shall I use schedule trigger flow, and when shall I use auto launch flow, okay, always remember, if you are from a developer background, always remember your auto launch flow is nothing but it's a class. If you're coming from a development background, I'm taking that example, keeping in mind that most of my audience will be a developer. So if you're coming from a development background, you create a trigger, right? When you create a trigger, you don't write all the logic inside the trigger. What do, you write that trigger, and in that trigger you mention when that particular trigger should fire, right? Then what do, you create a handler class for your trigger. Inside the handler class, you write all the logic, what should happen when this trigger will fire, right? Similarly, your trigger is nothing but your record trigger flow, where you mention this particular flow should get fired. That means, for example, if I say, many times you have seen this example, like, in your interview, when an account gets created, a contact should get created. So that's a very simple example. Now, this particular requirement is when my account is getting created. Okay, so when my account is getting created, so that's the triggering part. It is telling when it should fire. So if you get any triggering condition, or if you come to know, when this flow should fire, then you should go for record trigger flow. Okay, then there might be a question in your mind, hey Aman, can you tell me when shall I go for auto launch flow? Sure. So auto launch flow, as I said, it's like your handler class. You will write all the logic inside an auto launch flow, and you can call that flow or you can invoke that auto launch flow from your screen flow, record trigger flow, schedule trigger flow, platform event trigger flow, or from an Apex class, LWC component, anywhere you can, or from making REST API callouts. Basically, your auto launch flow is like a box, or it's like a type of a flow where you will enter all your logics that you want to execute, but it will get executed only when it is called from any other flow. Now, third question that will be in your mind is, Aman, I understood that you're telling me to call it from Apex class, web services callouts, auto LWC, and all that. I don't want to go there. I want to know how can I call out through my record trigger or screen flow, right? So when you go to any kind of flow, let's suppose we have created one auto launch flow, and you want to call it from your record trigger flow. So you will click on record trigger flow, you will give some conditions, and here if I show you, you get an option which is called a subflow. Okay, so if I close this, what it says, launches another active flow. And this will, if you want to try, you can give it a try. This will always consider, or this will always include only the auto launch flows. When I say auto launch flow, don't get confused. Again and again, I'm telling you, don't get confused. When I say auto launch flow, it only means this particular flow which I'm talking about. Though its name is auto launch, it is not getting launched automatically. It is getting launched only when it is called from any other flow. Okay. So I hope you understood what is the meaning of auto launch flow. Even Salesforce is mentioning in the bracket no trigger. That means there is no triggering point of it. It will only get trigger only if it is getting called from any other flow, or from Apex class, or from LWC component, or from REST API callouts. Okay, so that is your auto launch flow. Screen flow you have already known. Now moving on to that third one, which is your schedule trigger flow. Now that's a very simple one. So schedule trigger flow, you can mention at what day and what time it should fire. Okay, so schedule trigger flow is like, again, there will be a detailed session on that, so I won't go in depth for that. Okay, because it's going to be taken by some good what do you say, the host who's coming up. So I guess Amit Singh is taking it, my own guru who has taught all these things. So he will cover up more on this. But if I take a basic example, whenever you have a birthday, you get a message from a bank saying that, hey, I'm an happy birthday. Now no one is sitting there and typing a message for you. Okay, over, even though you will be an elite customer, no one is going to type a message for you. They have written everything in the backend, and they have mentioned this person should get that birthday message or birthday email on his or her birthday. So that is done through the schedule trigger flow, where the entire thing is scheduled up. Okay, if you ask me in a developer part, what is the schedule trigger flow? Again, that is already there in developer concept. There is something called as asynchronous programming, right? Something similar to that is schedule trigger flow. Not exactly that, but something similar to that. Moving on to the next one is platform event trigger flow. Now, platform event trigger flow means what? Again, there will be a session on that. But if you ask me, it's like there is a platform event, a concept is there. Okay, whenever that platform event is fired, then there will be a there will be an when a platform event message is passed, we have to capture it and we have to show to the user, or we want to perform any other action that we want to do, then we use platform event trigger flow. And the last but not least is your record trigger orchestration. Now, what is record trigger orchestration? So this is a complex, like if you want to build a very complex type of flow, then you will go for record trigger orchestration. Okay, won't go much into it. Maybe in upcoming sessions, if time permits, I'll take a session and I'll explain more about record trigger orchestration, but I won't be able to cover it now. Now, I hope you all are clear with this 6 different types of flows. Anyone have any doubts here? Okay, I don't see any doubt. So I'll move ahead. The chat box is all yours. Please feel free to post your doubt. And we will see the most important part, which is our record trigger flow. Now, what is record trigger flow? I always, as I said, record trigger flow is a type of flow which will get fire when the condition that you mention inside the flow will get executed. Okay. Now, what is condition? All that things we will see after some time. But in record trigger flow, there are three types or three subtypes. One is called before, one is called after, and the last one is called async. So there are three types of record trigger flow. Now, when to use what? So we will use before record trigger flow when we want to. Here I have written in a better way. So we will use before record trigger flow when we want to make any changes onto the same object on which I am creating or writing the record trigger flow. For example, I mentioned create flow. Then I mentioned the S object. Like let's suppose this S object is account. Now, you should have this question in your mind. Do you need to create, update, or delete the related records? It's saying related records. If the answer is no, then you should ask second question to yourself. Do you want to send an email alert or do you want to perform any action? If the answer is no, then you should ask, do you want to make any Apex call out? If the answer is no, then you will go ahead and use before save flow. If any of this answer says yes, like let's suppose, do you need to create, update, delete the related records? You say yes, then it will say after save flow. If the another question comes up, do you want to send an email alert? That is an action, or do you want to do chatter post, or do you want to call an Apex class? If any of this answer says yes, you will go for after save flow. Now, what is the difference between before save and after save? Okay, where can you find that option before save and after save? So here, before save and after save has mentioned in a different way in our record trigger flow. So this is called before save and this is called after save. Now, what is before save and after save? Before save means before the transaction or before the data is committed to the database, means before the record changes are done and it is committed to the database. Okay, that is your before save. Before it that transaction or before the data is committed to the database, if I want to do something to my record, then I will go for fast field updates. If you see, it says update fields on the record that triggers the flow. The high performance flow runs before the record is saved to the database. Okay, now then what is after save? After save means actions and related records. That means if my record is after my record is committed to the database, what I want to do, like as I took an example of an account is created, create a contact. So when account is getting created, a contact should also get created and they should be having a link, right? Now, how will that be possible? How do I understand that I should go for actions and related records or after save? Because when account is getting created, an id will get generated, an id will be generated, right? And I said after the account is getting created, that means after the account is getting created, an id will be generated, and then I'm saying create a contact. So contact will get created and this particular contact have a field called as account id. Now map that account id to this account id which is getting created, and with that your account will get created and contact will also get created, and then they will be merged, and then that contact will have relationship with that specific account. So there are a lot many this and that, I understand. I feel like you have a question mark in your mind, so no worries, I am prepared with that. So when to use after save, that is the question. So I said I am taking a situation when an account is created, then a contact should get created. Sorry if my writing is not good. This is something that I mentioned, right? Now here, when I said account is created, right? That means account will get created. Created means we use a DML statement, which means insert, right? Here, after the account is created, an ID will get generated because ID is an automatic field which gets generated after a record is created. After that, a contact will get created, and I said this contact should be associated with specific account which is getting created. So in contact is getting created, in that contact there will be one field which says that field is called account ID. Okay, and this field will take the value which is coming from this particular account. Okay, so that's the reason when contact is getting created, you will map it. You'll say contact dot account ID should be equal to the ID which is coming from here. Okay, this is how this will work. I hope that solves your doubt in your mind with this pictorial representation. Now, next thing is, Aman, shall I use only when I want to create a related record, this actions and related record? I will say no, have patience. Today we will talk only about fast field updates or before save. Tomorrow we will keep the entire session only for your actions and related records. So take a pause and come back to fast field update, that is before save. Okay, now you understood what is before save. If I want to do anything, when I say anything, that means no action. Again, I'll show you this diagram and I'll say in better way. If you want to create, update, or make any changes, then for the same record, that means update the same record, create a new record, or delete the same record, then you will go for before save. That is this one, fast field updates. Okay. Now, what's next in my slide? So the next thing that I want to talk about is the action and logic elements. Now we will see the action and logic elements related to our before save. Okay, here if you see, there are action elements which are having multiple sub action elements inside this, but we will not cover everything because we have something to cover for tomorrow. Okay, so let's go ahead and see our action elements first. So how do I find the action elements? I'll change the layout to free form, and here I will find my action elements. Now if you see here, I said optimize the flow for fast field updates. That means for before save. Now when you go for before save, there is only one action element, that is called custom error. Now what is this custom error? So custom error means sometimes if your flow is not working properly, okay, let's suppose you have created a flow, okay, and inside that flow you have forgot to handle, or you forgot to take care of any validation rule that you have created. Like suppose here you have selected account object, okay, and you said, and in this account object, whenever a record is getting created, you have created a validation rule, but your flow is not taking care of that validation rule. So what you can do is, what will happen is, user will get an error when the record is created, okay, or even the record will not get created and user will get an error saying that unhandled exception occurred, unhandled exception error occurred, please contact your sales system admin or Salesforce admin for this. Now this, when the user gets this kind of error, they won't be able to understand what is it talking about, right? So in that situation, what you will do is you will drag this element which is called custom error, and you can use fault path, and inside that fault path you can also use fault message, or you can use your own custom error where you can show the custom error on your own. Okay, so that is the use of your custom error message. Apart from that, there is another one. Whenever you are working on a record, okay, and if some error comes up, right, so that error shows you, how it shows up, it shows up in a toast message, right? Similar kind of functionality they have brought in your flows as well. So it says in a window or a record page as an inline error on a field. Now you have already seen this when you're creating validation rule. Okay, this won't show as a toast message, but it will show something similar to your validation rule. So in a window or a record page, that means what? When you create a validation rule, there it shows the custom error as a there you get two options, at the top of the page or at a specific field. When you select at the top of the page, it shows either in the lightning, it shows at the bottom, and in the classic it will show at the top. Here that is the same thing they are talking about in a window on a record page. As an inline error on a field, that means you can select a field and I will show this custom error message on that specific field. Okay, so here you can select a field. You can just go ahead and see it is showing you all the fields of that specific object. You can select the field, and apart from that, what you can do is, let's suppose I'm collecting a field. Okay, and I can also add the message that I want to say, show. Okay, so if I want to show a message, like as I said, validation rule error, so I will click on flow dot fault message, and this message I can show on this email field. This is how your custom error works. Next particular element that we have is logic elements. Now, as per the name it suggests, logic element is used to do what? To apply some logic. Now, assignment element is very much similar to assigning. So, what happens is when you're working in, let's say you are working in a development work, you're doing any development work. Now, how if I say, hey, do one thing, create a field on account object, let's say industry. Now this field might be there, but I'm just taking an example, industry, and assign it a value as engineering. Okay, now if you see, these values are coming in single quotes. That means this particular, in my from object manager, if I create a field, this will be taken as text, but back of the scene it is taking the value as string, right? Now, to assign this variable this value, what we are using, if we want to do the same in our flow, we will be using assignment element. Okay, if I have a variable, I can create a variable also in flow. Let's suppose I create a variable with the name as industry, and if I want to assign a value, I will say in variable I will give this particular name, maybe a field name or anything, that variable that you create, and in the value you can assign a static or dynamic value directly, which is coming from your flow. Okay, so this is how your assignment element works here. So here you can either use the variables which are there in your object from the account object, or you can create your own resource variable. Okay, what's next? There is decision element. Now decision element is very much similar to your if else block. Okay, so if else block means what? If this particular condition is satisfied, go and execute this particular solution, whatever action I'm mentioning. If not, then go and execute other one. Okay, if that is not satisfied, then go and execute the default one. So if anyone asks you how your decision element works in your flow, you can say by default it works in the form of, so this is how your decision element looks. So you can say by default it works as in the form of, this decision elements works in the form of if and else, where it says if this condition is satisfied, if this condition is satisfied, go and execute this block. If this is not satisfied, then execute the else block. Now here you can have multiple if. Now many people get confused, and I get a lot of question. People ask me whether it's if block, multiple if block, or if it is if else block. It actually worked like this. It worked like if, and then it works like else if this condition, then if it is else if not this, then again else if, and if nothing is satisfied, then go ahead and execute the else block. Can you show me the pictorial representation? I'll say yes, you can see this. So here if you see, you are mentioning you're mentioning one condition here. Okay, then if this condition is not matching, then you can select another condition. See, if this is not matching, another condition. If this is not matching, then go ahead and execute. You can add another condition, and if that is not matching, then go and execute the default outcome, which is nothing but your else part. Okay, so that is your decision element. Next is for loop. Okay, now this for loop is basically works like your enhanced for loop or for each loop. You can make it work like that. Okay, so what is enhanced for loop or for each loop? So if I have a collection, and from that collection, if I want to use one particular value, and if I want to make any operation on that, then I can do using this loop element. That is your enhanced for loop. Now I don't need to tell more about this. If anyone asks you in a simple term, there are two types of for loop, which is called for, and here you mention something like this: integer I is equal to 0, I is less than equal to n, I plus plus. And which one is this? This the one which we're using in flow is our enhanced for loop. This one is like for, then you mention the data type and variable name, and here you would give the collection. You pass the collection, and based on the value connection, each one value it will pick up from collection, it will perform the action, then it will come out, take the next value, so on and so forth. After this we have something called as collection sort. So collection sort is like, if I have a collection, okay, if I have a collection, like I got all the values from the collection, now all the values that are there I want to sort, okay, or if I want to store the maximum number of items inside that, then I'll go for collection sort. Post that we have one more action element, sorry, logic element, that is custom collection filter. Now this is very simple. Out of this collection that I have got, I want to, let's suppose if I have got any collection here, okay, I have, let's say, thousands of record, okay, if I want only those records, so this can act like, the filters that you apply in your SQL queries. I want only those records whose name is equals to something, okay, then I can use that collection, and inside that collection I'll give the condition, and only that collection filter will give me only that specific values. So this is your collection filters. After that we have update records, which I don't need to tell you. Update record is like work like as a DML statement which helps you to update the record. But here this your update record is very powerful, and from last two release before they have bought a specific update in your update record element. Here you can make your update record act like get records as well as update one. So if I say, hey, update records, only update those records whose rating equals hot, update those record and set the value of rating to cold. So what it will do, it will go and take all the records whose rating equals to hot, okay, and it will set the values and it will update the value to your cold one. So this is how your update record works. After that we have the last element, which is called as get record element. Now what does get record element does? This is purely your SOQL. But many people don't talk about this. There is one limitation. If I say get accounts and if I say account, obviously it won't show me the account because I'm working on the same one. Let's see if it shows or not. Yes, it will show. Sorry, my bad. Okay. So if I show, say account, get me the fields of, let's say, account name. Okay, account name equals, or if I say account name does not equal to null. Okay, so it will give me all the records. Only the first record means it will give me one record. If I say all the records, it will give me all the records. Now here is one problem. If your work coming from a development background, in development we have something called as limit clause, right, where we can say, I just want only the 10 records. Okay, but here that is not possible. Here you can sort the records in ascending or descending order. Okay, and you can set like, I want to sort it by an account name, but limit part is not there, limit clause is not there, offset is not there. So many things are yet not there, but I hope in future Salesforce will bring it. Now that is all about your elements. So these are called elements that are available in your record trigger before save record trigger flow. Any doubts here? Quick check. Okay,
There's no
John,
question.
there is no doubt.
Still now there is no question. It is good.
Great. If there is no doubt, there can be two reasons. Either my session is good, or it can be the second case where my learners are sleeping. I'll go for the first one though. Okay, so let me go to the most important part of our record trigger flow, that is your triggering condition. Now you you have seen everything here. Okay. Now, if I go here, I need to start from here because first part of your record trigger flow is where they will ask you on which specific object you want to apply this particular record trigger flow. I'll say you can select any object. I've selected account. Then second one is, or let me do one thing. Let me explain this as well as along with this, I will also take the first scenario. So the first scenario is whenever a lead is created or updated, if the rating is hot, then company should be updated as first name and last name. That means whenever you are creating or updating a lead record, and if the rating is hot, only then the company should be updated as first name and last name. So company name should come as first name plus last name. Okay. So let's try to achieve this. So always remember, whenever you get a question, try to find out the keywords in the problem statement. So here our keyword is the object is lead. The another keyword is they want to fire it when the record is created or updated. So two keywords we got. So we'll go and select our object as lead. The second keyword was when a record is, so that is triggering condition. When it should fire when a record is created or updated. Obviously, in your real-time project, you won't get such an easy requirement, but just for your knowledge, I'm telling you. The next thing is, if the rating is hot, then the company should be updated as first name and last name. If the rating is hot. So that means there is some condition for it to fire. So I'll say all conditions are true. And here I will set rating should be equal to hot. Now, before I set this condition, it's very important for us to understand what does all this mean. So when I say none, that means, hey Aman, then will it fire whenever a account is created or updated? Yes. If you mention none, obviously there are very rare chances that without any condition you will fire a record trigger flow. But if you say none, there are high chances that you will go and use decision element inside your flow because there can be multiple conditions, and based on each condition you will have different actions to perform. Then at that time you will mention condition requirements as none. Okay. When shall I go for all conditions are met? When you have multiple conditions and based on all that conditions should become true, and once they become true, only then my actions or anything that I'm mentioning inside my flow should get executed. Then I'll go for all conditions are true. Then third one, any condition is met. Here, if I'm saying any of the condition, like I'm giving 4 conditions, in any of them, in all of them, if any one of them is getting satisfied, then I'll go for any condition is met. Then last one is custom logic is met. So this is very helpful. I'll show you. First, I'll select all conditions are true and I'll say annual revenue is greater than or equal to, let's say 50 lakhs. Hope I get such CTC. Then I'll say my email should not be equal to, does not equal to blank. Okay. And the third one, I'll say that, let's say, I'll give industry. Okay. I'll say industry should be equals to agriculture. Now, I want this particular flow should fire, just an example I'm taking. Okay. I want this particular flow should fire if these two are true and this one is either true or false. It's fine for me. But this two, or let's suppose another one is either of these two, if anyone is getting satisfied, it's fine, but from here it should always be true. So how can I achieve it? Now, as per my this logic, all 3 conditions should be true. Okay. So if I have such condition where my on first logic should be always true, and out of this, if anything can be true, it's fine, then I'll want to fire. So I'll go and select custom logic is met, and I'll say one and here I'll say, I'll create a bracket here and another bracket here, and I'll say 2 or 3. Out of this, second or third, anyone, if it is true, it is fine. But for the first one, first and the combined of these two should always be true. Then I'll go ahead and select custom logic is met. Okay, and the last one which says formula evaluates to true. So here you can create your own formula. Let's say like if I want to say, hey, I want to fire this particular flow only when begins, I'll say only when record dot name begins with Aman. If I check syntax, okay, there is some mistake, I think. Check spelling. Might be some mistake from my like syntactical. I have not mentioned the correct condition. Let me try to use double quotes, which is I'm sure which is not the right one, but let me save. I understood my problem. So here I say begins. Instead of begins, I can use simple one is blank. Let's not do much experiment here. I'll use if is blank and I'll select here instead. Here I'll select record dot name. So if my record dot name, and outside this, if I say, obviously you won't create such complex flow formula. If I say if my record dot name is not blank, then okay, what it is, if I use extra bracket, and let me try with this one. Field name does not exist. How come? Okay, maybe that name is not there. No, it's there. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, that field might not be writable because it's a combination of first name and last name. That's why it might be throwing an error. Can be a situation. Okay, so if I say like this can be one of the example. If the record name is blank, or if I say if it is not blank, then you fire it. Something like that. Let's see if this works now or not. Yeah, it's working. So if the first name is not blank, then you fire this flow. Okay, that can be the case. Now this one in our case, what we said, when the rating equals hot. So if you want to give at least one condition, you can select this or that. That is doesn't matter, but most of the time we select this. So if I say rating equals hot, then you fire this flow. Now, if you see here, there are two things that they are asking. Every time a record is updated and meet the condition required, only when a record is updated to meet the condition required. What is the difference? Okay, many people, even I, when I started learning, I got confused. So if you're coming from, if you have used workflow rule there, or if you use process builder there, you might have seen this. In workflow rule, there was one part which says that created and every time it's edited, and there was the second one, created and every time it's edited to subsequently meet criteria. So the second one which says created and every time it's edited to subsequently meet criteria, that is what is this. And here created and every time it's edited, that means whenever a record is created and if this record is edited, and at that time, if this condition is getting satisfied, then my flow will fire. Now let me give you a pictorial representation of what I mean to say. I mean to say something like this. Let me take up this here. I say that when my rating is equal to hot, okay, when rating is equal to hot, then go ahead and fire the flow. That's what I said. Now here there are two conditions. First one is every time, and the second one is only when. So what does it mean? When you select every time, what will happen is, let's suppose you update the record. And while updating the record, you have not touched rating field. There was already a rating field. You have not touched this field, but still the rating field has a value as hot. You went ahead and you updated name. You have updated the name as Aman. But at this time, the rating field which was there, you have not touched it, but still it's meeting the condition which is said rating is equal to hot, and you selected every time, which states even though if you're not making any changes to this field, my condition is getting satisfied because you said every time a record is edited. So even though I'm making changes to this particular field, while making changes to this field, this condition is getting satisfied. So I will go ahead and fire the flow, which can be a wrong situation. Okay, based on the requirement, it can be right or it can be wrong. Okay, what does only when it means? So only when says, hey, when I am updating a record and if I'm touching this field which says rating, if I'm saying rating is equal to hot, if I'm touching this field, only then you go ahead and fire this flow. Okay, then it will fire this flow only when if you're making changes to this particular field, and if you are changing it from any other value to hot, then it will fire. Unnecessarily it won't fire. I hope that makes sense. We will look and we will obviously will do a practical implementation. So as of now, I will select every time a record is edited and meets the condition requirement, and I'll select fast field updates. Okay, and I'll click on done. Now I will go ahead and I will look my scenario. So what was my scenario? The scenario said company should be updated as first name and last name. So company is a field. Now to update a field, okay. Now here is a quiz, or here is a question for my audience. So tell me, to update a field, what shall I use? Shall I use assignment element or update records? Let's see who answers correct. Let me check in the chat. Both. Asmina says both. Okay. Others? Okay. Others, I think they are making a guess. Okay. Both. Assignment. Okay. 3 answers are there and 4 update records. Sasi says update. Yes. That's a good thing to always remember. See, your record trigger flow will work when what you have said, when a record is created or updated, your record trigger flow will always update the record. You don't need to specifically go ahead and do it. Okay. Now, yes, many of you have selected correct. You have selected update, record, and assignment both. Both will work. When why should I not use this and why should I use this? The answer is when you use update record element, that means you are hitting a DML statement. Okay. So DML statements, there is a limit 150 DML statements you can use, right? Per transaction, you can hit that limit. Now you'll say for just a simple one I can hit it. No, as of now there is not there. But what if you are using for loop? Okay, and inside that for loop, if you use update element, okay, update record element, then there is a high chances of that. So to avoid that and to be ready for such kind of scenarios, what we will do, we will use assignment element. Okay, now here I'll say update company, and I'll set the variable. So here, what variable we have? We have record, that is company, lead dot company. Okay, and I'll say it should be equal to first name and last name. Now you know very well that first name and last name are two different fields. So how can I do it? If I write record dot first name, this is fine. But if I want to add last name, then I can't go ahead and write like this, something like this, record dot last name. It will throw an error. So what will I do? I will simply go ahead and I'll create a formula field, formula resource. So the resource type we will select here as formula, and I'll say F, that is formula, first name, and okay, this is last name. Okay, and here the data type will be text. Insert a resource. I'll say record dot first name, okay, and record dot last name. Now let's see the syntax. Syntax is correct. Okay. Now we'll click on done and we'll click on done here and we will connect this. Simple flow. Let's save this. I'll say simple RT, that is record trigger flow for lead. Okay, now let's see, save it. Okay, what it says, the field object type is required when the data type is a object. Okay, what is that? What does that mean? Let me save this again. Current item from source collection. Okay, have I created this? No. Let me try to delete this. I don't know how it came up. I don't created it. I'll click on save and I'll click on debug, never activated. But when you debug, let's see, I will check for updated. So I'll add any record, let's say Beather Boxer 1, Beather 1 Boxer 1, and here my rating is already hot and I have not done any changes to this field. Okay, I will just go ahead and I will select, I'll send the status state to Florida. Now if you remember, what did I selected here? We selected here, what we selected here? We selected let me select the object here and then show you. So we selected here I don't know why it is not coming up. Not sure why it is not coming up, but here we selected every time a record is edited to subsequently meet the criteria. So I just selected the state as Florida and have not done any changes to my rating field. Let's see what happens. I'll click on run and it says completed and it's green. So let's see what happens. Now here the company name got updated. Was it hard to understand? Obviously. So what I'll do is we'll click on activate and we'll check on actual record. So I'll go here. From here, I will go on to actual record. And here I will select lead. From my app launcher, I'll select lead. And I will select this particular record. Okay. Now here the rating, the same record which we selected from here, this is updated one. So for update, we will check. Now rating is hot. And here if I change the name from beta 1 to beta 2, and let's see what happens. Save it. Now see here, company name got updated. Okay. So even if you're not making changes to anything related to the rating field, but still it is meeting the condition. You said every time it's updated to subsequently meet criteria. The criteria is meeting up because the rating is becoming hot. Now, if I go ahead and if I say deactivate, and this time if I say here edit, and if I select only when a record is edited to subsequently meet criteria, and if I click on done, save as, and activate. Now this time, if I go to the same record, always remember when you are using record trigger flow, you should never there is no need for you to refresh your entire screen because the changes is going to happen related to the record. So if now this time, if I go ahead and I mention beta 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, something like this, and this time if I see the company name didn't got updated, see. Okay, now if I go ahead and if I change the rating to warm, now my flow should not fire. But if I change my rating to hot, what should happen? The company's name should be beta 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, boxer 1, right? It should get updated. Let's see. Save. And if you see here, see, it's getting updated. So this is how this particular section works. Okay. Now we will see the second scenario, but before that, if there is any question. No, I don't see any question.
There is one question.
Okay, yeah, but tell me what is the question?
What is the maximum flow version in Salesforce?
Yes, that's a very good question. As of now, I have not come across a situation where I have reached the maximum version. So I have to check the documentation, but I'm not pretty sure like how much versions you can create. But I've never seen a flow uh, having limitation when it comes to creating the versions. You can create as many versions you want because at a time only one version will be active. So it doesn't matter how many versions you create. But might be, I'm not sure there can be limitation for that version.
There is another one question. Can you
Okay.
can you explain customer again?
Okay, custom error. Okay, fine. Rajdeep is saying 100. Asmina is saying 50. So yes, I'm not sure. So I don't want to comment anything. Or if you want, we can quickly check flow version limit, Salesforce flow version limit. So it says flow versions per orchestration is 50 and active flows per plus orchestrations is 2000. So what is the limitation of flow? The flows do not have the capability. Okay, no, it's not this one. We'll quickly check. Again, this is maybe 50. It is showing 50 versions per orchestration. So maybe 50. Again, it all depends on your org as well. So it's available for enterprise, performance, unlimited, and developer editions of. So yeah, the limit may be 50. So Asmina is right, I think. Okay, and yes, I'll talk about custom error, but before that, we have one more scenario to cover. So we'll check that. The second scenario is create a record trigger flow so that when an account is created and industry is blank, then populate the industry education as industry. Okay, let's see. Or I'll do one thing. I will leave this scenario onto you. You can take this as an assignment. And if you have any doubt with this assignment, you can come up with this doubt tomorrow. I'll just paste this question in the chat and you can try it out. So there is only one question. What was that? Can you explain the custom error again? As I said, your custom error works like your validation rule only. If you want to have a custom error to be created for a specific particular field from your record trigger flow, then you can do it and you can show that custom error. Like if you have created a validation rule for your email field okay, again, I'll take the same example and you want to show that error. So you can write here the field as email, select the field as email and from your flow, this is a global variable flow dot fault message. So it will show you the message in a better way, whatever error or whatever error you have mentioned in your validation rule, that error can be shown in a better way here. Instead of showing just like an unhandled exception has occurred, please contact your system admin. So that's pretty much it from today's session. If you have any doubts, feel free to put your questions in the chat. If not, let me check. I don't see any doubt.
There is no question. Thank you, and thanks for the great session.
Yeah, so if there is no doubt, please come tomorrow. We will have second session for your after save flow because that's another important concept. And also I'll talk about asynchronous part of your flow. So with that said, I would leave one message that is, it's very high time to keep going with the flow. So thank you so much everyone for being so patient and looking forward to meet you tomorrow at 4 p.m. IST. Thanks,
Thanks.
Pramod. Dipali says, okay, there is one question using flow. Can we restrict the user to create record on any object? Can we restrict the user to record? See, your flow can be run in two ways, okay? The way your Apex class run with sharing, that is user defined or system defined. So here that can be done with your flows as well. But can we restrict the user to create a record on object? Yes, you can do that as well. But if you come up with a precise requirement, then I can tell you in a better way. Okay, because record trigger flows get auto launch, get called from a button, gets called from an Apex class. So what can be your requirement that based on that I can tell you in detail. Okay, that's all from my end. So thank you so much. Again, I request you, if you really like the session, you can post it on the LinkedIn or any social media channel so that others can take benefit of this and can join tomorrow. Thank you so much, Kanyakumari Developer Group and John, for giving me this opportunity to share my knowledge. We'll see you tomorrow at the same time at 4 p.m. IST.
Thank you, Aman. Thanks for the great session. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, and thanks for joining. Thank you.